My name is Melissa Harper, and I just turned 32. I should have been happy blowing out the candles on my birthday cake at the upscale restaurant I was paying for. Instead, my mother leaned in close, her perfume suffocating me as she whispered, "You are jealous of your brother." And something inside me finally snapped after years of financial support, countless sacrifices, and endless excuses. If you have ever had family take advantage of your generosity, let me know where you are listening from in the comments below. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stick with me as I tell you how I finally stood up for myself after years of being the family ATM. Growing up in Chicago with my younger brother Ryan was mostly happy. We were 5 years apart, me at 32 now, him at 27. But as kids, that age gap did not matter much. Our middle-class neighborhood was filled with tree-lined streets and modest homes where we would ride bikes until the streetlights came on. Mom and Dad both worked, making ends meet without much extra. From early on, our differences were clear. School came naturally to me, straight A's without much effort, always with my nose in a book. Ryan was different, struggling with academics but making up for it with charm that won over teachers and classmates alike. He could talk his way into or out of anything, flashing that winning smile while I calculated compound interest for fun in math class. Despite our differences, we were close. I would help him with homework, and he would scare away boys who teased me about being too smart. We shared secrets under blanket forts, swore blood oaths with safety pins, much to Mom's horror when she found out, and defended each other fiercely against neighborhood bullies. Everything changed when I was 14 and Ryan was 9. The fighting between our parents had been escalating for months, hushed arguments after we went to bed, sudden silences when we entered rooms. Then came the day Dad packed his suitcases, promised he would see us soon, and drove away. Mom cried for weeks. That is when I started working. First, it was babysitting on weekends, then shelving books at the local library after school. By 16, I was working 20 hours a week at a coffee shop while keeping my GPA up. The money was not much, but it helped Mom with groceries and meant I could buy my own school supplies. Ryan kept being Ryan, lovable, carefree, assuming things would work out. When Northwestern University offered me a full academic scholarship for finance, it felt like validation for all those nights studying while friends were at parties. The campus was just a train ride from home, so I commuted to save on housing costs. Between classes, I interned at Bridgewater Financial, making coffee runs and organizing spreadsheets. By graduation, they offered me a junior analyst position. 5 years of 60-hour work weeks, skipped vacations, and relentless networking paid off when I became a senior financial advisor. My clients trusted me with their futures, and I never took that responsibility lightly. My small apartment became my sanctuary, not fancy, but mine. Bought with my savings and careful planning. The first time I helped Ryan financially seemed so innocent. He called during his sophomore year at Illinois State, panic in his voice because Mom could not afford his textbooks that semester. $800 later, I felt good about helping Proud, even. He was so grateful, promising to pay me back once he graduated and landed a killer job in marketing. Those small loans and gifts became a pattern. Birthday presents more expensive than I bought for myself. Car repairs when his ancient Honda broke down again. The security deposit for his first apartment after college. Each time, there were promises of repayment soon that never came. By 31, I had been promoted to team leader at Bridgewater. My investment portfolio was growing steadily, though not as fast as it should have been. Still, when planning my 32nd birthday, I wanted to celebrate properly. For the first time since Christmas, my entire family would be together. Mom, Ryan, a few close friends, and even my rarely seen uncle from Dad's side. Listro was the restaurant I had walked past for years, peeking at the menu and promising myself someday. Their chef had just earned a Michelin star, and reservations were nearly impossible to get. I booked 2 months in advance, put down a $500 deposit, and felt a thrill confirming our table for 8. The week before, I spent hours shopping for the perfect outfit, settling on a deep blue dress that made my eyes pop. I scheduled a salon appointment for highlights and a blowout, splurging on the full treatment. This birthday would be different, a celebration of all I had accomplished, surrounded by people I loved. Ryan called 3 times that week, each conversation buzzing with excitement about the amazing gift he had for me. "You are going to flip, sis," he promised. After years of forgotten presents or last-minute gift cards, his enthusiasm was contagious. Maybe he was finally growing up. Maybe this birthday would mark a new chapter for us both. 6 months before my birthday, Ryan lost his job at Vertex Media. The marketing firm had been restructuring. He explained over beers at my apartment. His position as junior content creator was cut, but he was not worried. "The job market is hot right now," he assured me, scrolling through listings. "I will have something better in 2 weeks, tops." When his landlord threatened eviction after the second missed rent payment, I offered to help just until you are back on your feet. The $1,800 monthly rent for his trendy downtown apartment was not nothing, but I could manage. "You are literally saving my life," he said, hugging me tight. "I will pay you back with interest once I land somewhere." Weeks passed. Job applications were supposedly sent, interviews allegedly scheduled. Yet somehow, Ryan's Instagram showed him at rooftop bars, music festivals, and weekend trips to Lake Michigan. When I asked about his job search over Sunday dinner at Mom's, she jumped in before he could answer. "The job market is brutal for his generation," she said, refilling his wine glass. "And Ryan needs to find something that appreciates his creative talents. He cannot just take any position." My brother nodded solemnly while texting under the table. Ryan's girlfriend, Amber, complicated things further. Tall, stylish, and perpetually between modeling gigs. She had expensive tastes and no visible income. Yet, somehow, she sported new designer sunglasses each time I saw her, while Ryan complained about being broke. 3 months before my birthday, he called at midnight, voice tight with panic. His car had been repossessed. "I meant to make the payments," he swore, "but things have been so tight with rent and everything." Without reliable transportation, how could he get to interviews? The bus system was sketchy in his neighborhood, and Uber would cost a fortune long term. 2 days later, I co-signed for a certified pre-owned Audi at 9% interest. "Nothing fancy," Ryan insisted, though it was nicer than my 5-year-old Toyota. "Just reliable transportation so I can get back on my feet." The salesman smirked as I wrote the check for the down payment. Around this time, I realized Ryan had been using my Netflix, Spotify, and phone plan for years. The discoveries came slowly, strange shows in my continue watching queue, playlists I had not created, data usage spikes I could not explain. When I confronted him, he seemed genuinely confused by my concern. "We are family." He shrugged. "I thought that stuff was just understood." Then came his sheepish admission that he was struggling with utility payments. "Would you mind adding his electric, gas, and internet to my auto-pay accounts?" he asked. "Just until things turn around," he promised for the dozenth time. The week of my birthday, he texted asking to borrow $200 for something special he wanted to get me. The irony was not lost on me, but I transferred the money anyway. What was another $200 at this point? At work, my colleague Jessica noticed I had started bringing lunch instead of joining the team's weekly outings to the sushi place downstairs. "Budget cuts at home," she joked, not knowing how close she was to the truth. I laughed it off, blaming a new fitness plan rather than admitting I was watching every dollar. My friend Taylor was harder to fool. Over coffee the weekend before my birthday, she pointed out the dark circles under my eyes. "You look stressed. Mel, is everything okay with work?" When I hesitated, she narrowed her eyes. "Is it Ryan again? What has he done now?" I changed the subject. unwilling to admit I had checked my credit score for the first time in months and found it had dropped 40 points. The credit card balance I had always paid in full was now revolving, interest piling up while I covered my brother's expenses. The morning of my birthday, Ryan called, asking if he could bring Amber to the dinner I was paying for. "She is practically family," he argued when I paused. "And she has been looking forward to trying listro." I reluctantly agreed, mentally recalculating the per-person cost of the meal I had been saving for. An hour later, Mom called. "Just checking that you ordered chocolate ganache for the cake," she said. "You know it is Ryan's favorite." When I reminded her I preferred vanilla bean, there was a pause. "Well, but chocolate would make everyone happy? Do you not think—" I changed the order while still on the phone, the bakery charging an extra $50 for the last-minute switch. Memories of past birthdays hit me as I prepared for the celebration. Ryan's 21st at an exclusive club downtown where I covered the $2,000 table minimum. His 25th at a beach resort weekend I organized and funded. Each year, despite not being the birthday person, my brother somehow received gifts more expensive than anything I got. "Ryan is just starting out," Mom would say, handing him the latest gaming console or designer watch. "You are so successful. You do not need anything special." My presents were usually practical kitchen gadgets or business books, while Ryan got items from my own wish list I could not justify buying myself. My apartment told the real story of my finances. Stylish, but modest, with furniture I had collected over years. The dining table came from a thrift store, refinished during a weekend project. My sofa was high quality, but bought as a floor sample at 40% off. I lived comfortably but carefully, tracking every expense on a spreadsheet. That spreadsheet had a tab labeled Ryan, a habit from my accounting days that now revealed an ugly truth. Over the past 2 years alone, I had spent $42,000 on my brother. Rent, car payments, random cash transfers, his share of family gifts for Mom, utility bills, grocery deliveries when he was between paychecks. The total made my stomach clench. My credit card statement showed a $5,000 balance carried over 3 months, the first time in my adult life I had not paid in full. The minimum payments were manageable, but the interest felt like throwing money away, something I warned clients against daily. I arrived at Listro 30 minutes early, wanting everything to be perfect. The staff led me to our private dining area with exposed brick walls and twinkling string lights. The table settings were elegant without being pretentious, exactly what I had hoped for when booking. Mom arrived 15 minutes late, air kissing my cheek before settling in. I could not help noticing her new purse. A soft leather Prada in burgundy I recognized immediately. It had been open in my browser for weeks, part of my someday wish list. When I complimented it, she beamed. "Ryan helped me pick it out. He has such good taste." Ryan and Amber arrived 45 minutes late, offering no apologies. My brother hugged me quickly before launching into a story about their quick shopping trip that had caused the delay. Amber interrupted to show off her new ankle boots, the red soles flashing as she extended her leg. "We are so broke it is not even funny," she lamented, wearing an outfit that cost more than my monthly mortgage. But these were 60% off, so practically a steal. Ryan nodded enthusiastically, his arm around her waist. When drink orders came, he patted his pockets theatrically before looking at me with familiar sheepishness. "I think I forgot my wallet at home. Can you spot me? I will Venmo you." The Venmo that never came after dozens of similar promises. Throughout appetizers, I noticed Ryan's wrist. The watch looked new stainless steel with a distinctive blue face I knew started at 4 figures. When I asked about it, he changed the subject, pulling his sleeve down. Mom lavished attention on every story Ryan told, laughing too loudly at his jokes while cutting me off mid-sentence when I tried to share news about my recent promotion. "That is nice, honey," she would say. Turning back to my brother. "Ryan, tell everyone about that client you almost landed before the layoffs." When someone suggested a family photo, Mom positioned Ryan in the center, physically moving me to the edge with a firm hand on my shoulder. "The lighting is better over here," she explained when I resisted. The scene brought back a childhood memory so vivid it tightened my chest. Christmas morning when I was 12, opening the small earrings I had asked for while Ryan unwrapped an expensive gaming console no one could afford. What Mom did not know was that my babysitting savings had vanished from my drawer that week, exactly the amount needed to cover the difference for Ryan's gift. I never mentioned it, seeing how happy he was. As main courses arrived, my headache worsened. Ryan was showing Amber something on his phone, both of them laughing. "The Airbnb for next weekend," he explained when he caught me looking. "Little getaway to Michigan wine country." "You deserve a vacation after all your stress," Mom said, patting his hand. "Job hunting is exhausting." Neither mentioned the thousands in rent I was covering while they planned wine tastings. Ryan's landlord came up when a friend asked about his apartment. "That jerk is being impossible about the late rent again," Ryan complained, rolling his eyes. "Threatening eviction over a couple of weeks. Some people have no compassion." I took a large sip of wine, avoiding Taylor's knowing glance across the table. The couple of weeks was actually 3 months of rent payments sitting in my bank's pending transactions, set to process at midnight. The birthday cake's arrival should have been the night's highlight. 3 tiers of chocolate ganache with gold-dusted decorations, exactly as Mom had insisted. Listro's pastry chef had outdone herself, creating something worthy of a magazine cover rather than my modest celebration. As servers placed it at the table's center, a flicker of hope stirred inside me. Everyone gathered around, faces lit by the soft glow of approaching candles. Maybe this moment would salvage the evening, a chance to feel special on my birthday after all. Ryan leaned toward Amber, whispering something that made her giggle and nod eagerly. I caught bits about the lake house and jet skis for sure, clearly planning their weekend. My brother's hand rested casually on her thigh, his new watch catching the candlelight. "Ryan deserves a nice vacation," Mom commented, overhearing. "After all the stress he has been under with the job situation. Sometimes you need to spend a little to recharge." She said this while I calculated how many extra hours I would need to work to cover next month's expenses. The staff gathered around, candles fully lit, ready for the birthday song. Friends and family joined in a melody that should have brought joy but felt hollow instead. As the song ended and I leaned forward to make a wish, Mom's voice came soft but clear beside my ear. "You are jealous of your brother," she whispered, her smile steady for onlookers. "You always have been." In that moment, every sacrifice I had made flashed before me with perfect clarity. Working through high school while Ryan enjoyed extracurriculars, commuting to college to save money while he lived in dorms, taking overnight shifts at the firm to prove my dedication while he partied through his early 20s. The vacations I never took, investments I postponed, dreams I deferred, all to be the responsible one, the supportive one, the one who could always be counted on when bills came due. Something crystallized inside me, a sudden, absolute certainty that nothing would ever be enough. No amount of money, support, or sacrifice would change the dynamic that had defined our family for decades. Ryan would always be the golden child, and I would always be expected to ensure his comfort at my expense. "Then let him pay his own bills," I said, my voice soft but steady. Mom blinked, confusion crossing her face as my words sank in. Ryan looked up from his chat with Amber, sensing a shift in the air. "Excuse me," Mom said, her smile strained. I set my napkin carefully beside my plate. I said, "Let Ryan pay his own bills. All of them. Starting tonight." "Mel? What are you talking about?" Ryan laughed nervously, glancing around the table where conversations faltered. "Your rent. Ryan, $1,800 monthly for the past 6 months. Your car payment, $720. your phone bill on my family plan, your Netflix, Hulu, Spotify Premium, the utilities you could not manage, electric, gas, internet, the credit card I added you to as an authorized user, the loans that were never repaid. My voice stayed calm, each word precise despite the storm inside me. I am shutting down every payment starting tonight. Amber's jaw dropped, her eyes darting between us. You pay all his bills? She asked, shock clear in her voice. All of them? She is exaggerating, Ryan said quickly, his charm kicking in. Mel helped out temporarily while I am between jobs. It is not a big deal. Right, sis. $42,000 in the past 2 years, I replied, the spreadsheet numbers etched in my mind. That is not temporary, and it is not helping out. It is enabling dependency. Melissa Harper, Mom hissed, her public facade cracking. This is completely inappropriate. You are making a scene on your birthday, of all days. Yes, it is my birthday, I agreed, standing slowly. And for once, I am giving myself a gift that matters. Financial independence for all of us. You do not mean this, Mom said, reaching for my hand. You are upset about something, but we can discuss it privately. Not here, not like this. I absolutely mean it, I said, pulling my hand away. I have covered every expense, made every sacrifice, and received nothing but expectations for more. I am done. Ryan's easy confidence faded, panic rising in his eyes as my words hit home. But the rent is due next week, he stammered. And the car payment. You cannot just, I can, and I am. I interrupted. You are 27 years old. Ryan, it is time to pay your own bills. The cake sat untouched between us, candles melting into the frosting, wishes left unmade, celebrations abandoned. I reached for my purse, placed $300 bills on the table to cover dinner, and walked out of my own birthday party without looking back. Behind me, I heard Mom calling my name, Ryan's protests growing louder. But I did not turn around. The night air felt clean against my skin as I walked to my car, ignoring the buzzing phone in my purse. For the first time in years, I felt something unexpected breaking through the anger and hurt. Relief. The drive home was a blur of streetlights and talk radio, anything to drown out the voices in my head. Guilt wrestled with liberation, uncertainty with resolve. By the time I parked in my spot, my hands had stopped shaking, replaced by a calm determination I barely recognized. Inside my apartment, I went straight to my laptop. The screen's glow lit my living room as I logged into my online banking portal. Ryan's financial ties to me were deep, and cutting them would take focus. First, the automatic rent payments to Highland Property Management. I found the recurring transfer $1,800 monthly with Ryan Harper Rent in the memo and clicked Cancel Series. A warning popped up. Are you sure you want to cancel this recurring payment? I clicked Yes without hesitation. Next were the utilities, electric, gas, internet. Each needed a separate login to different portals. I removed my payment info and transferred services back to the account holder. Please note that service may be interrupted if alternate payment arrangements are not made within 3 business days. One site warned. I took screenshots of each cancellation for my records. The phone plan was trickier. Ryan had been on my family plan for 7 years, his data usage always maxing out our limits. I logged into the carrier site, removed him as an authorized user, and started the process to transfer his number to a separate account. User will need to establish their own payment method within 5 days to maintain service. The confirmation read, the credit card company required a call despite the late hour. I need to remove an authorized user immediately and request a new card for the primary account holder. I told Marcus, the representative. He handled it efficiently, no questions asked, with a professionalism I appreciated. I emailed Ryan's landlord. This letter serves as formal notification that, effective immediately, I am terminating all financial responsibility for tenant Ryan Harper at 1420 Lakeview Apartments, Unit 307. Any existing automatic payments from my accounts should be considered unauthorized after today's date. By 2 in the morning, I had dismantled every financial link to my brother. Each cancellation brought a mix of anxiety and relief, like cutting away anchors I had not fully realized were dragging me down. The final task was updating my budget spreadsheet, deleting the Ryan categories entirely. The change was instant. My monthly cash flow now showed a surplus instead of a deficit. I stared at the revised numbers, a weight lifting from my shoulders, one I had carried so long I had forgotten what it felt like to stand straight. That night, I slept deeper than I had in years, waking to sunlight streaming through blinds I had forgotten to close in my focus the night before. My phone revealed the aftermath: 27 missed calls, 43 text messages, 16 email notifications. Ryan's messages shifted from confusion, "What happened last night?" to anger. "You cannot just cut me off without warning," to panic. The landlord called about rent being canceled, to begging, "Please just cover this month while I figure things out." Mom's voicemails swung between guilt trips, "How could you embarrass your brother like that?" and threats, "If you do not fix this immediately, do not expect to be welcome at family gatherings." Amber had gone public, her social media full of vague posts about toxic family members and showing true colors. Several mutual friends messaged me, asking what happened, clearly hearing only one side. A text from Connor, Ryan's college roommate, surprised me with support. "Been waiting years for someone to finally make Ryan grow up. Tough love, but necessary. Stay strong, Melissa." After coffee and a long shower, I made one last financial move, changing my apartment locks. The spare key I had given Ryan, for emergencies only, had been used whenever I worked late, evidenced by missing food and borrowed clothes or electronics. The locksmith arrived by noon, replacing the deadbolt while chatting about the warm weather. $300 later, I had new keys and a stronger sense of boundaries. Monday morning, I met with my financial advisor, Barbara, a humbling step for someone who advised others professionally. She listened without judgment as I explained, then mapped out a recovery plan for my savings and credit card debt. "You are in better shape than you think," she said, reviewing my updated budget. 6 months of disciplined spending, and you will be back on track toward your long-term goals. That Friday night, I realized something startling while browsing restaurant options online. I could afford dinner out again. Nothing fancy, just the neighborhood bistro I had loved before Ryan's financial drain took over my budget. Ordering without calculating how it would affect my ability to cover his car payment felt revolutionary. The real test came the following Wednesday. I was in a client meeting when our receptionist interrupted with an urgent message. Ryan was in the lobby, demanding to see me immediately. Sophia at the front desk said he was growing agitated, raising his voice about family emergencies and being abandoned. I excused myself and found him pacing the marble floors of our reception area, disheveled in a way I had never seen. His eyes were red-rimmed, his usually perfect hair unwashed. "You need to fix this," he said, loud enough for colleagues to hear. "They are shutting off the electricity tomorrow, and the landlord has started eviction proceedings." This is not funny anymore. "Melissa, I am at work," I replied calmly, aware of the attention his outburst drew. "This is not the place for this conversation." "Where is the place?" "Then," he demanded, voice rising. "You will not answer my calls, will not respond to texts. What am I supposed to do?" "You are supposed to pay your own bills," I said, holding his gaze despite his agitation. "Like every other adult." "With what money?" he nearly shouted. "You know I do not have a job." "That is a problem you need to solve," I said, signaling our security guard, who had noticed the scene. "I can recommend some employment agencies if you would like." The betrayal in his eyes almost broke my resolve. Almost. Security approached, asking him to lower his voice or take the conversation elsewhere. When he refused, they escorted him to the elevators, his protests echoing until the doors closed. My colleagues were surprisingly supportive. Several stopped by my office later to check on me. Jessica brought coffee and admitted she had been worried for months. "You seemed stretched so thin," she said. "Whatever that was about, you handled it with more grace than most would have." That weekend was the first in recent memory without a financial crisis from Ryan, no urgent calls about overdrawn accounts or surprise expenses. The silence felt odd but freeing, like learning to breathe again after too long underwater. A week after that birthday dinner mess, Mom hosted a family dinner at her house. I was not invited, but my cousin Sophia called later to fill me in. Ryan had dominated the night, complaining about my sudden betrayal and abandonment when he needed me most. Mom backed his story fully, painting me as cruel and unreasonable. "I just thought you should know what they are saying," Sophia said awkwardly. "It does not sound like the cousin I know." "It is not the full story," I said, thankful for her call. "But I am not going to defend myself to people who are not interested in both sides." The next day, I made 2 key calls. First, to a therapist Barbara recommended, Dr. Eliza Coleman, who specialized in family dynamics and boundary issues. Terms I would have brushed off as nonsense months ago now felt exactly right. Our first session was mostly background, but explaining it aloud to someone objective brought clarity. "It sounds like you have been in a caretaking role far beyond what is reasonable between siblings," she said. "That creates patterns that are painful to break, but continuing them harms everyone involved." My second call was to Taylor, who I had been avoiding since the birthday. We met for coffee at a neutral spot, where I finally shared the full scope of my financial support for Ryan over the years. "I suspected it was bad, but not this bad," she said, eyes widening at the numbers. "Why did you never say anything?" "Family loyalty, embarrassment. I am not sure myself," I admitted. It just became normal somehow. Over the next few weeks, I reconnected with friends I had lost touch with during years of financial strain. Dinners out, weekend trips to local wineries, a theater subscription I had canceled to cover Ryan's car insurance. Small joys returned one by one. 3 weeks after our confrontation, Ryan's landlord called. "Mr. Harper indicated you would be handling his outstanding balance," he said, sounding doubtful. When I explained things had changed, he sighed. "Eviction proceedings will continue." Then, "Just thought you should know." Mom's reaction was swift and harsh. "How can you sleep at night knowing your brother will be homeless?" she demanded during a call I nearly sent to voicemail. "This is cruel beyond words. Melissa—" "He will not be homeless," I said, keeping the calm tone Dr. Coleman and I had practiced. "He has options. Get a job, find a cheaper apartment, ask a friend for help. I have sent him info on emergency rental assistance and employment agencies." "He is your brother," she said, as if that trumped everything. "Yes, and I love him," I agreed. "But continuing to financially enable him is not loving. It is hurting both of us." An unexpected ally emerged. Uncle James, Dad's brother, who I rarely saw since the divorce. He called out of the blue, having heard through the family grapevine. "Your father would be proud of you," he said, catching me off guard. "He always worried Ryan was being spoiled by your mother's approach. Setting boundaries is the hardest and kindest thing you could do right now." By the 2-month mark, my budget was recovering. My first deposit back into savings was small but meaningful. The credit card balance was shrinking, not growing, and I started researching vacation options for later in the year, something I had not done in ages. News about Ryan trickled in indirectly at first, then more directly. He had taken a job at a retail chain, his first steady work in nearly a year. The position was entry-level and beneath his qualifications, Mom said, but it paid regularly. Amber dumped him when the lifestyle cuts became clear. Her Instagram now featured a new boyfriend with a luxury car and vacation shots from Cabo San Lucas. Ryan's social media went silent around the same time. At a cousin's wedding I attended reluctantly. Mom kept a cold distance, introducing me to relatives with minimal courtesy. The extended family seemed puzzled by the tension, some picking sides based on whatever story they had heard. During the reception, I sat with aunts and cousins who avoided mentioning Ryan until wine loosened tongues. When Aunt Patricia finally asked, "What happened with that birthday dinner everyone's talking about?" I gave a factual rundown of the financial situation. No drama added. "So, you have been supporting him completely?" Cousin Elise asked, surprised. "All this time. Ryan made it sound like you occasionally helped with small stuff. Not that you were covering everything," Uncle David added, frowning. By dessert, several family members who had been distant earlier approached with new understanding. "I would have done the same," Aunt Joanne whispered, squeezing my hand. "It is about time someone stood up to the golden child dynamic." 3 months after our clash, Ryan texted me directly. "Got promoted to shift lead. Starting financial literacy class at community college next month. Not asking for anything, just thought you should know." I stared at the message for 20 minutes before replying. "Congratulations on both. That is genuinely great news." Ryan: "I am proud of you. No offers of money, no reopening old doors, just a nod to his progress." At the family Easter gathering, the tension was still there but less sharp. Ryan arrived in a used Honda, not the repossessed Audi. He lived with 2 roommates now in an apartment half the cost of his old place. Mom still made excuses for him, but he seemed different, quieter, more thoughtful, even cracking self-deprecating jokes about learning adulting the hard way. The most telling moment came when someone asked about Christmas plans. In past years, I had been stuck with the priciest parts, the prime rib, the fancy gifts, the booze everyone drank. This time, as Mom started, "Melissa usually handles," Ryan cut in. "Maybe we should all contribute what we can this year," he said, glancing at me briefly. "Split things more evenly." The silence that followed felt like a small win, not full reconciliation, but a sign of a shifting dynamic that needed to shift. 6 months after my 32nd birthday, my finances had transformed. The credit card debt was gone, my emergency fund rebuilt, and retirement contributions were back on track. Barbara noted with approval that I was on course for my long-term goals. No detours. My apartment mirrored the inner change. I repainted the living room a calm sage green, ditching the beige from when I bought it. New bookshelves held the collection I had built but never displayed properly. Small upgrades, a quality coffee maker, local gallery art, plants thriving under my steady care turned the space from functional to truly mine. Ryan's life had changed even more. His new apartment, shared with a coworker and the coworker's cousin, was half the size of his old luxury unit. In a working-class neighborhood far from downtown, it lacked the amenities he once deemed essential. Yet, when I visited after multiple invites, I noticed something unexpected. It was clean, organized, with furniture he had bought himself, including a second-hand dining table he had refinished. His retail job had led to a promotion, shift supervisor, handling inventory and training new hires. "Not my dream career," he said over coffee at a cafe between our places, "but it pays the bills, and I am good at it. Regional manager says there is potential for advancement if I stick with it." That coffee meetup was our first one-on-one since the birthday blowout. Set up carefully via text, we met on neutral ground without Mom's influence. "I owe you an apology," Ryan said after some stiff small talk. "A big one." He traced his mug's rim with a finger, clearly rehearsing words that did not come easy. "I took advantage of your generosity for years. Worse, I took it for granted, like it was something I was entitled to." The admission lingered, heavy because it was unprompted. "What changed?" I asked. truly curious. Reality, he said with a humorless laugh. Nothing teaches priorities like having your electricity cut off in January or eating ramen for 2 weeks straight because you blew grocery money on concert tickets. He shook his head. The financial literacy class helped, too. Did you know credit cards charge 24% interest? I had no idea. I might have mentioned that once or twice, I said, letting a small smile slip. Yeah, well, I was not listening before, he said, his face growing serious. The hardest part was not even the money. It was realizing how I had behaved, who I had become, not someone I am proud of. Mom struggled more with the new setup. She still tried to nudge me back into old habits, suggesting I help out Ryan with big purchases or cover family gifts, since you can afford it. Each time, I held the boundaries Dr. Coleman helped me set, kind but firm refusals. No long explanations or apologies. She will adjust eventually, Uncle James said during a lunch we had made regular after his surprise support. Your mother leaned too hard into the story of Ryan as the special one needing protection. Changing that takes time. Thanksgiving was the first big holiday under the new arrangement. Instead of me handling it all, we did a potluck where everyone pitched in what they could. Ryan brought rolls and wine modest but fair for his budget. Mom provided the turkey but accepted others' sides and desserts. The tension never fully faded, but beneath it was a thread of healthier interaction. Ryan surprised us with a thoughtful gift, photo frames with duplicated childhood pictures, one for each family member. The cost was low, but the effort was big, the opposite of his old gift-giving style. My sessions with Dr. Coleman moved from crisis mode to deeper family patterns. The dynamic you described is classic, she said during one sharp session. You were cast as the capable one, the responsible one, which feels like praise until you realize it means you are never allowed vulnerability or support. Ryan was cast as perpetually needy, which seems like the better deal until you see it keeps him immature and stunts his growth. Her words showed me my enabling was not just financial, it was emotional. 2. By always fixing Ryan's problems, I had helped keep him dependent, even as I hated it. Helping is not always helping became our mantra, a reminder that real support sometimes means stepping back. The biggest surprise was how comfortable I got saying no without guilt or long excuses. From turning down extra work projects that did not fit my goals to skipping social events that drained me. Setting boundaries with Ryan became a blueprint for healthier limits everywhere. Dating, which I had shelved during years of financial stress, crept back in unexpectedly. Michael, a client's brother I met at a charity event, asked me to dinner after we bonded over hiking and obscure documentaries. On our third date, I shared my recent family drama, a talk that would have embarrassed me months ago, but now felt like a key test of compatibility. Boundaries are not just good, they are necessary, he said, impressing me with his quick grasp. My sister went through something similar with our cousin. The most loving thing she did was stop solving his problems. The deepest insight came watching Ryan's slow change. His financial struggles, though tough, sparked growth my shielding had blocked. He built budgeting skills, a work ethic, and resilience no advice from me could have taught. The brother emerging from this rough patch was more grounded, more capable, closer to the person I had always hoped he could be. I am thinking about community college classes, he said at our latest lunch. Business management. The company has tuition assistance if I stay full-time. The pride in his voice was new, not the old bravado, but something earned. As my next birthday neared, Ryan called with a surprise. I want to take you to dinner, he said. Nothing fancy like last year, just Brady's Grill on Elmwood. Their burgers are great. He paused, then added, It is within my budget. The offer brought tears to my eyes, not for the modest spot, but for what it meant. For the first time, he was giving what he could actually afford, not empty promises. The path from resentment to healthy boundaries was not straight or simple. there were still tough family gatherings, awkward talks, and slips into old habits. Mom sometimes called me selfish when I held financial lines, but beneath the struggles ran a new authenticity missing for years, relationships rooted in real connection, not money. The biggest lesson was not about cash, but about the guts to redefine family on better terms. Love did not mean endless sacrifice or financial bailouts. Sometimes it meant standing firm while someone you cared about faced hard but needed challenges. Sometimes the kindest gift was refusing to give what hurt both sides. As I looked toward my 33rd birthday, I saw that what felt like an end, that painful clash over melting candles, was really a start for Ryan, for me, and for our family's future. The bond we are rebuilding is different, but it rests on something stronger than one-sided giving. Have you ever had to set tough boundaries with family who took your generosity for granted? How did you find the strength to stand up for yourself? Share your stories in the comments below. I would love to hear them. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is stop fixing others' problems and let them grow through their own struggles. Thanks for listening to my story. I wish you strength on your own path to healthier relationships.